This is the Homeschool Show with North Carolinians for home education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill. We welcome you to the show today, and I want to also reintroduce John Lewis, our co-host for today's show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
By the way, John, this might be it because we might be bringing in a new co-host next week. So
it was fun while it lasted.
You're finally getting the axe on that.
Oh no!
We'll bring you back though. We'll bring you back.
All right. Yeah. That's okay. I'll go cry in the corner while you finish the episode.
All right. Tell us what we're doing today.
Hey, today we're going to have the homeschool news. We're going to start by discussing an email from the NCHE about virtual meetings and record requests. And so what are you legally required to do, and how should you respond to that? And then we're going to go on to Homeschool Conversations. We're going to listen to a conversation that Matthew had with Natalie Mack, who serves military families with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, that HSLDA. Mm-hmm. We'll hear about some of the special needs that military families have with regards to homeschool. And then also the Homeschool Tip of the Week, which is do not compare yourself to others.
Don't do it.
That's right. And so I will not compare myself to my
the next
co-host that comes after me. And then Homeschool Reality Moment. We're going to take a peek at what's going on in a real homeschool family like yours. So, Matthew, why don't you talk to us about the news?
Okay, last week we discussed, actually it wasn't last week, a couple weeks ago, we discussed the postcard that was sent out that you received also.
That's right, yeah.
Asking for information, asking you to confirm that your homeschool is open. Well, there are a few homeschool schools receiving emails now with a similar request. This isn't widespread, but there are pockets here and there by county from time to time of some families receiving an email requesting a virtual meeting with the Division of Non-Public Education, which would include a review of records. And so it says that the way that the email reads, if you were to get one, it's easy to understand this request as a legal requirement. Let me give an example here. It's quoted. Please note that DNPE encourages you to participate, and that's referring to the virtual meeting. As the North Carolina statutes governing non-public schools require all non-public schools to make available their records upon request. An invitation to attend a record review meeting is such a request. So this sounds like you're legally required to do that.
Yeah, it does.
It is important to note, however, that later in the email it states this. If you do not have Microsoft Teams or prefer not to meet virtually, you may either email or mail a copy of your 2020 and 21 attendance chart and standardized test results to DNPE. And so we've actually talked to DNPE and understand that they do see the meeting as a voluntary thing. So you don't have to do it. Yeah. However, they are saying if you're not going to meet with us, then you do need to send your records in. And they've communicated to us that that is not a voluntary request. However, we want to clarify something, and it's simply this, that from our understanding of the law, it does not seem that they are authorized to request to review your records virtually or through email. So let me read the statute. It says, for 1 year after the testing, all records shall be made available at the principal office of such school at all reasonable times for annual inspection by a duly authorized representative of the state of North Carolina. So the principal office of such school, that's not the principal's office, but that's the principal office, which is
probably the principal's office
it is the principal's office. And so what that means is your home.
Yeah.
Now, so a clear reading of this would be that and this is what they used to do, they have to come to your home, knock on the door, and ask to review your records, and they are authorized to do that. The way it stands now, they are not authorized to send you an email and say, send us those records. And so here's what we want to encourage you to understand, a couple of things. Number one is we believe that you are not required by law to send in your testing records, your vaccination records, or your attendance records to DNPE by mail or by email. At the same time, kind of going back to our postcard discussion, we would actually encourage you to participate if you're willing.
Right.
Don't do it if it's something you're not comfortable with or don't want to do. Feel free not to do it. But if you're willing, we would encourage you to do that. And just as we explained before, it's the decision of each homeschool administrator as to how to respond to these requests, but we advise cooperation. Government officials are charged with maintaining the integrity of the law. It is important that one's relationship with government officials remains civil. So we encourage homeschools to be in compliance with the law and to assist government officials in carrying out the task. NCHE's view that the current regulations on North Carolinians' record maintenance are not overburdensome, and that DNPE has demonstrated itself to be in support of alternatives to public-sponsored education. Here's the critical issue here. Lack of cooperation may raise questions by some regarding the integrity of the law and validity of the practice of home education. In contrast, a working cooperative relationship with government officials communicates respect for civil governance and the common good. So as we've said before, our goal primarily is our mission is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. And one of the ways we do that is by protecting your right to homeschool in North Carolina. And we will always let you know what you are legally required to do and what you don't have to do. And you are free to decide what to do according to the law. We do encourage you as much as possible to cooperate, because if for example, we didn't have the Division of Non-Public Education, do you know who would be overseeing homeschooling? The public school education.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to keep the DNP. You know, they're very homeschool friendly, and they're very good to us. So keep in mind that we are going to continue to make sure that our laws in North Carolina are friendly, and we're going to help you understand what they are. And we're going to encourage you to make sure that you're responding in a way that's going to help keep homeschooling free. So that's the news for today on those. If you happen to get one of those emails, we hope that you feel comfortable, that you understand what you can do in response to that.
But Matthew, you can see how someone would take caution over an email like that or a postcard, because it's almost like the wording seems to say one thing, and then conversations seem to say another. And so
that's right.
I think it's very important. I'm thankful we have NCHE working on our behalf and giving advice in this, because I didn't have any clue what was going on when I got that postcard. So and if you got one of those emails, check this out, pass it on to other folks who need it. We're going to move on to our Homeschool Conversations. We're going to listen to a conversation that Matthew had with Natalie Mack. She serves military families who homeschool with her role at the HSLDA, and she's a Navy chaplain's wife. She's been homeschooling for 20 years, and we're going to hear about some of the special needs that homeschool families have when they're military families. So let's take a look at that clip.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So, Natalie, tell me about what you're doing with HSLDA right now.
Okay, well, with HSLDA, I wear two hats. One is high school educational consulting, but the recent hat is military outreach coordinator. And so we're basically building the military outreach program for HSLDA from the ground level up.
So what's the importance of serving military families, homeschool families in particular? Tell me some of those needs that are particular to military families.
Yeah, well, at the HSLDA level, basically one of the main needs is the legal, of course, right? Because that's one of the things. But also the needs are making sure, like when we move, do we homeschool based on the laws of our home of record, or do we change to the state that we're in? And how do we do that, easily? Because a lot of states have so many different rules, right? So that's a big thing. Families need a lot of support to understand transcripts and so forth. From the HSLDA side, as an educational consultant, we do free transcript reviews and help keep families launch kids to college or to the military, to one of the naval, military academies. There's so many resources that are needed just to make a family feel comfortable. The homeschool days like that, the state organizations, right, offer. The conventions actually are such a mecca to bring families together, to get education, workshops, to connect, to meet other military families in the state that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot there that needs to be unpacked in terms of the message that needs to be given to the military family that just landed in, say, North Carolina.
Right.
Like, okay, why would I join NCHE? What can it offer me?
We'll
right?
do that. Let's speak to military families in North Carolina right now.
Right.
What advice or encouragement would you give them as they continue to homeschool?
I know that for military, one of the things you'll hear us say is, well, we move so much. I really don't want to invest in becoming affiliated.
There you go.
My concern with that, and as a family, we have not done that, meaning when we have moved, we have joined state organizations.
Okay.
We plug into local co-ops, okay? Because for those years that you are there, you are living. Daily life is happening.
Yeah, you got to keep going.
And you got to keep going. And so what's most relevant is what's right in front of you. What are the resources you can touch? What are the resources within the state? And it doesn't matter that you're going to relocate in 2 or 3 years. That has nothing to do with what you need presently.
Okay.
So if your son needs a co-op or your daughter needs, driver's ed, you plug into NCHE and find who offers driver's ed to homeschoolers.
Yeah.
Because that's relevant for right then. So sometimes military are thinking always about the relocation, and that's real because we do relocate a lot. But you're living somewhere for a period of time. So get the resources that you need while you're there.
And plug into community.
Plug into community.
Yeah.
Because we know homeschooling is largely the support in the community is important.
Right.
It's really important. And so if you start homeschooling, especially now, many parents have pulled out of traditional school to homeschool. And they're looking around and wondering, okay, does anybody else do this? What do I do? Who's my friend? Who's my support? Well, NCHE is a way to find groups that exist, right? Co-ops that exist.
Right, exactly.
That can help you in that journey. Even if you're not homeschooling for life, you may be homeschooling just for this year.
Right.
But you're living right now as a homeschooler and you need support.
Right.
And so it's important to just realize that. And also to know that organizations know when you walk in the door and say, hey, I'm a military homeschooler, organizations won't be surprised when you say, I'm going to be moving. That's not a surprise. So I think the organizations they want to connect with us, but a lot of times I think we don't think that they want to connect with us because we're going to be moving.
Temporary, yeah.
Because we're temporary. But we have a lot to offer. Military families, we are very resilient. And we know how to come in and say, we're going to start this program because this is what our family needs. When we were over in Italy, we started a soccer program because it was needed.
Yeah.
I had never played soccer, but it was so needed. And we needed it for USYS, U.S. Youth Soccer. So there was not one. So we started with a few other parents, and it grew and grew and grew. So, that's just a small example,
Great, yeah.
It happens. So you'll find military families, military moms, we are very capable of saying, okay, we can come in. And the advantage is because we do move so much, we have experience and exposure in many ways.
Yeah, a lot to offer.
A lot to offer, It's amazing when we've lived, we've lived overseas. So my perspective of history, when we lived in North Carolina, we joined a co-op. We joined two actually, but one co-op, there was a geography around the world course. And the teacher was using a curriculum, which was a good curriculum. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. But when she found out I had lived in Europe, when we got to Europe, she was like, take it away. And I brought in all kinds of things from France and Spain because I had them to bring and I could bring in and talk about you know, what this really was like, you know. And my son, that got him a chance to shine because he was the youngest of 5, and he was able to say, yeah, I went up to the top of the Eiffel Tower, you know, and he was like the big guy in the class.
He had the experience.
So there's a lot of reason to plug in where you are at the time.
Awesome. Well, that was Natalie Mack, and we want to let you know if you're a military family in North Carolina or located in North Carolina right now, here are where you can find some resources. We want you to go to nche.com/join today, and you get all the benefits of being a member of NCHE. And you can also find different community groups by going to nche.com/community. So be sure to check out our website. Also, you can come to our annual Thrive conference and attend the special gathering for military families. And that conference is going to be this year on May 26th through May 28th. And funny enough, May 28th, that'll be my oldest daughter's birthday and her graduation day. This year. That's right.
At the conference.
At the conference.
That's great.
The conference. And Matthew, now we had something for military families this past year at the conference too, right?
This 21 conference, one of the workshops was homeschooling in the military by Deborah Hagan. And you can go onto our website and search military families, and you'll be able to find that workshop. And you can purchase that audio recording and download it and listen to it just for $5, as well as all the other workshops and recordings.
Awesome.
But that was a recent one that would probably be helpful to military homeschool families. If you are a military family, we want to communicate, just as we were talking to Natalie. We want to encourage you, even if you feel like you're not going to be here for long, just dive in. We love to for you to be a part of the family while you're here. And so if you have any thoughts or questions, comments about homeschooling in the military, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com, and we'd love to see what's on your mind about that.
Oh, and one other thing about that conference, if you when you register for the conference, you can join NCHE at the same time, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think usually the conference dues go to, and you just kind of click the little box you want to join NCHE. You'll get the emails and all that stuff. So, all right. Well, we're going to talk about the homeschool tip of the week. I obviously wasn't homeschooled. I can't speak. But the homeschool tip of the week is do not compare yourself to others. Matthew, why is that so important?
Well, just like in most of life, we wonder, how am I doing?
Yeah.
And so you're homeschooling, you're trying to homeschool your kids, or maybe you're new to homeschooling and you're trying to figure out, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And one of the most obvious things to do is look around. What are other people doing?
Right.
And I would just like to say right off the bat, that's not a bad idea.
Sure.
You definitely should look around and you should ask. You
Find
should
some models.
learn from others.
Yeah.
Get ideas.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you look at others and then your thoughts go to this, I'm not doing as well as them.
Right.
I'm not doing this or that they're doing. And then there's the other side of it, which is, well, I'm definitely doing better than them.
Right.
And so it's a very natural thing for people to fall into. And generally comparing, as opposed to learning from people, is unproductive because it can produce pride, discouragement, and misdirection. Mm-hmm. So it can obviously produce pride if you're comparing yourself to someone who you think isn't doing as well. Mm-hmm. And that attitude certainly doesn't produce any good fruit in our lives. It can most likely produce discouragement because you're going to look at what other people are doing. And my goodness, if you decide to go on social media and you're looking at Instagram or Facebook and you compare all of the beautiful pictures of the homeschool days that everyone's having and the meals they're cooking or whatever, it's easy to get discouraged to go, because you might say, man, I couldn't have taken one picture today that I would want to show anybody.
I was cleaning glue out of the carpet all day.
That's right. And you get discouraged by that. Right. Most importantly, though, I would like to say that it produces misdirection. Because what happens is I begin to think that I'm supposed to be doing what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem with that. Why does comparing not work? Well, it doesn't work because each one of us as parents are different. We have different skills, backgrounds, interests. Our homes are different. Our schedules are different.
Our children are different.
Our children, each one of the
Yeah.
children have different learning styles and personalities and interests.
Even within the same home, regardless
Oh.
of the number of similarities.
Definitely.
Yeah. You guys know this better than anybody.
Our seasons of life are different.
Yeah.
Our work is different. Our schedules are different. Who's home? You can't compare.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do it. And so once you start doing it, you're going to go down the wrong road. And unfortunately, you might start picking activities, curriculum, schedules that don't meet your needs, whether it's your mom, the dad, the kids,
Yeah.
or things like that. So there's a lot of unproductive ways of comparing there.
Well, and isn't that why a lot of us, kind of went away from the public school model and chose to do homeschooling because
that's
because
right.
we didn't want our kids to turn out like everybody else's kids, cookie
right.
cutter, and follow the same mold. So I think it's interesting, but it does happen. And as a matter of fact, I preached a sermon on this back in Mother's Day this past year called "Comparisons Kill,
All right.
but Truth Triumphs." And it's about the lies that we believe. And, a lot of times the comparisons we make because we believe this lie that somehow we don't measure up. And so we're constantly looking for something to affirm that this means I'm validated. This means I'm okay. You don't need to compare yourself to somebody else to be okay. You look at what Christ is asking you to do. You be obedient, and He's okay with that, right?
Well, that reminds me of the story I wanted to tell where Peter, at the end of the book of John, is having that moment with Jesus where he's being restored, and he says, "Do you love me and feed my sheep?" And then he indicates how Peter would die, and he described this.
Yeah.
And then it says that he looked up and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, which was John.
John, of course, it's John.
And so he said, Peter said to Jesus, "What about this man?"
Yeah.
And so immediately he's going, "But you told me my story, but what about him? What's the comparison?"
Yeah.
And Jesus
I want to know what
says-
bad's going to happen to him.
Jesus says, "If it is my will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me." And so this is what I want to leave us with, okay? Your job isn't to do better than others or to compare yourself to others, just like Peter was tempted to do. Your job is to just follow Jesus. Romans 14:23 says, "Whatever does not proceed from faith is sin." Now, what's the importance of that? Your journey, your homeschool journey, should be a relationship between you and the Lord. And your only question should be, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" And then you're acting in faith, and you're doing what He's leading you to do. Learn from others, but follow the Lord. And that'll give you peace and relief and rest in what you're doing, and you can avoid the misdirection and the discouragement and maybe even the pride.
Yeah.
So we have just a couple more minutes to get to our homeschool reality moment.
Yeah, so let's take a look and see what's happening in your homeschools.
My name is Catherine McPhail. I'm 13 years old, and I made this popsicle house. It is 17 by 12 inches, and it has 7 bedrooms and a front porch.
How long did it take you to make it?
A week.
A week?
Yeah.
You can look in the window here and see a little desk and a chair and a book. And what else is on that table right there?
A lamp.
A lamp. Nice. And how did you make sure that all of this was proportionate and fit together?
I measured everything, basically. Every little thing that I would put in, I measured the height and the length.
So this was not an assignment for Catherine. This is something that she chose to do in her free time. She had hundreds of popsicle sticks, paint, tissue, and a glue gun, and that's all she needed. One of the things I love about homeschooling is the free time you have to be creative and to construct things, and this is an example of that at our house. Another thing is that you're able to see what kids are interested in. Catherine has really demonstrated an interest in building and puzzles and architecture. The detail on this is amazing. The tiny little faucet handles, the toilet paper, the drain down the sink, the cabinetry, the shower. It's all pretty amazing.
All right. Well, this time, John, we gave you a little peek into our homeschool.
Yeah.
And want to remind you that if you're listening on the radio, if you're listening on a podcast or anything like that, that we do have a video version of this. And it was some great shots of the actual popsicle stick house. And you could see the toilet paper and all the little, it's just incredible, all the little details. So you might want to check that out. You can go to YouTube and subscribe there if you want to follow and see the actual video version of this. Once again, we want to invite you to participate in the Homeschool Reality Moment. You might have some great ideas, some great things that your kids are doing. Maybe it's musical, maybe it's art, maybe there's things you can show us, a story you can tell. It could be that you just want to tell us a story. So send us a video to the homeschool show at nche.com. Go ahead and record that horizontally, if you will, and tell us what's happening in the video so our audio listeners can enjoy that. Once again, we're so glad that you could be here. We love to encourage you. We love to equip you. And if this has been helpful to you, we want to ask you to do this, and that is to share it share this show with your friends, with your family, with other people. We'd love to have more people join the family and join the conversation. If you would like to ask questions for us or learn more about what we're doing, you can go to the homeschool show at nche.com. Continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.